come in, Mystery Challenger, and sign in, please.
Are you European?
Mm-hmm.
Are you from Northern Europe?
Mm.
Are you in any way in the field of arts?
Are you in any way in the field of arts?
It's a wide field, John.
Yes.
I only know 2 or 3 dressmakers, so I'll take a chance at Schiaparelli.
That's the right answer.
Yes, I did plant seeds in my ears, nose and throat, so I would become a bed of flowers. I was fascinated by beauty, every kind of beauty except mine. It was my father who introduced me into the art galleries, poetry and literature. I was truly inspired by art from early years. My first book was called Arethusa, where I wrote about philosophical love poetry. In 1913, when I was 23, I left Rome for good. I met the lovely Paris, where I started to go to balls and ballet performances. How can I forget the Rite of Spring concert composed by Igor Stravinsky? The melody paired up perfectly with the geometric shapes printed into the costumes, designed by the innovative Leon Bakst. It was outstanding. I truthfully enjoyed my teenage years. The music back in the days had something unique. I remember dancing my first tango. It was the vivid glamour of Paris. Not so inspiring nor great years before the memorable 20s, but when the decade arrived, I met the prophet of simplicity, always original, always magnificent, Paul Poret, who definitely introduced me to fashion. When I met Poret in his couture house, the jazz age was starting to emerge, and I would stay for hours watching Josephine Baker doing her Charleston dance. She was the personification of beauty and sexuality. I loved when women looked like the exotic. I certainly faced some ups and downs in my life, especially when I started to design and get experimented with the latest fabrics and fibers. I had to assume the role of fashion celebrity, which I hated because I have to admit I am not a very chatty person. But anyway, 30s were challenging but amusing. People were not afraid of being different then, and so I started to sketch. It was the decade where I designed the divided skirt worn by Lily de Alvarez, which shocked London, and the newspaper hats that I took inspiration from. That time I went to Copenhagen. Old ladies were sitting on the banks of the canal, wearing on their heads newspapers twisted into queer shapes of hats. I had to do something with that. I got deeply interested in surrealism. My friend Gabriel Picabia introduced me to his husband, the Dadaist artist Francis Picabia. And so he and many other artists and photographers started to influence my work. The surrealist notions of woman's body as a musical instrument was marvelous. The photography of Le Ballon d'Angers by Man Ray, an extraordinary photographer, which I worked with several times, encouraged me to design a music collection in 1939. During that time, I wrote articles on the music I heard in the recitals, concerts, and at the opera. They weren't critical at all. I barely knew about music, but this enabled me to air unconventional views, and I could transfer those compositions into my designs. In the fall collection, I used organdy, chiffon, and tulle on youthful dance dresses embroidered with violins, flutes, and pianos, and the gloves were embellished in metallic threads with musical notes. When you opened one bag, a musical box tinkled a melody, another was shaped like an accordion, and a third had a piano keys on the frame. Sheet music was imitated with ribbons for bars and roses for notes printed on white silk crepe. Like words, staff and scales were printed on colored silk. silk, and a sewed belt was twisted into a treble-check buckle. All my presentations were spectacles. I had to build a reputation as a fashion leader, and therefore I included lightning effects, music, dance steps, and group appearances. During one of the several times I went to the opera, I met Grace Moore, that gorgeous singer, who always had confidence in me. I designed her a white satin musical theme dress in 1946, just 1 year before her airplane accident. Well, overall, fashion is born for small facts, trends, or even politics, never by trying to make little pleats and fur billows, by trinkets, by clothes easy to copy, or by the shortening or lightening of a skirt.